What a day it's been for college football recruiting, and it doesn't look to slow down. Because one of the nation's top prospects out the state of Alabama, five-star defensive lineman Peter Woods, who many believed was a lock to the Crimson Tide, has made his collegiate decision, picking between Clemson, Jackson State, Alabama, and the Florida Gators. However, it was not the Alabama Crimson Tide that won this battle. In fact, it was the Clemson Tigers, and today we need to break down why this is such a big win for Clemson, what Peter Woods brings to the table, and everything in between. Before we do, as always, y'all know the drill. I need to hear from you. Hop down to the comments, Y for yes, N for no. Are you surprised that Dabo was able to go into Nick Saban's backyard and lift one of the top players in all of high school football? Let me know what you're thinking. If you are new to the channel, be sure to subscribe, hit that bell notification as I do constant college football content. You don't want to miss any of it, and if you enjoyed this content, like and comment down below as those interactions are massive. But having said all that, let's jump right into this. And this is a huge win for Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. And let's get one thing understood. If I'm asked who the most intriguing college teams are heading into 2022, Clemson has got to be near the top of that list for me, especially after a move like this, because this move comes on the heels of the Clemson Tigers losing not only Brent Venables, but also Todd Bates. And I understand that loss happened months ago, but it's still the loss of a established defensive coordinator and one of the best defensive line coaches in the nation. And even though you didn't have both of those guys, you still went into the state of Alabama in the backyard of Nick Saban and took a priority target from the Crimson Tide and five-star defensive lineman Peter Woods. To me, that says a lot about not only Dabo Swinney, who, by the way, if we're talking about head coaches over the last decade that have had the most success, that's probably the name that's coming after Nick Saban from the majority of people you'd ask. This shows that Clemson is a team we have to watch, and especially when you hear Peter Woods talk about new defensive line coach Nick Saban, because he has had rave reviews over Saban, stating he's one of the best things that happened to the Clemson Tigers after Todd Bates left. So it's going to be very interesting to see what Saban is able to do, because I was curious as to where Clemson would go once they lost Todd Bates. Losing Brent Venables is a loss. He has been a fantastic defensive coordinator in college football and coached a lot of top-tier defenses. But Todd Bates was one I was really keyed in on, because if we look at a lot of those Clemson Tigers defenses, that defensive front was where the strength of that unit lied. And when he left, I was really curious as to see what Dabo Swinney would do next. And it did not take long for him to identify someone that is resonating with recruits to the tune of being able to go, like I said, into Alabama and take away a priority target that many thought was a lock to the Crimson Tide. So what does this mean for Clemson? Well, Clemson's class is clearly not going anywhere, especially if they can continue getting wins such as this. They have a blue-chip quarterback in the class, which I always say is a great way to ensure that you're probably going to get more talent, and now they have Peter Woods. And if they're able to maintain Peter Woods in their class, this could be the type of prospect that creates an avalanche. Will he? I'm not sure, but one thing I can guarantee is there are going to be individuals interested in playing with Peter Woods. He is that elite. Just flip on the film, and you're going to see an individual fighting through double teams and doing it with ease. This is a dominant high school football player, and it makes complete sense that he's one of the top 30 players in all of high school football, regardless of position. This is a guy that I think Clemson Tiger fans need to be very excited about, but this is also a prospect that you can bet your bottom dollar the likes of Alabama are not going to stop recruiting. They're going to want this kid, and they're going to do everything they can to try and flip him, as well as they should, because he is that gifted. So what does this mean for Clemson going forward? Well, as I stated, this is going to be interesting to see whether or not this causes an avalanche. But the one thing we can say with full certainty is that the Clemson staff has to be moving forward with confidence, and especially if they can back that up with a big year this year in 2022 after losing Brent Venables, Todd Bates, Miguel Chavez, Ted Roof, and your offensive coordinator Tony Elliott. If Clemson goes out there and puts together a good season after losing all of that, well, but if they are able to back it up with real tangible results, it's going to get scary. This is one of the biggest moves that have happened thus far in recruiting because of the importance that the Alabama Crimson Tide put on Peter Woods. And let's be 100% honest here. Alabama doesn't miss often, and I know there are going to be people pointing to Freddie Roach saying he dropped the ball, but Freddie Roach is an elite recruiter, and let's not get anything misunderstood. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. In the past 2 cycles alone, you want to know the likes of who he's landed if we're just talking 5 stars? Jeremiah Alexander, Jaleel Hurley, and Tony Mitchell. He's had his hand in all of them. So, Freddie Roach is still an elite recruiter, easily one of the best in the business. This just means Clemson is doing something that we need to pay attention to right now. And because of that, I can't put the blame on Freddie Roach because Roach has been an elite recruiter for the Crimson Tide. This is just something that I'm very interested to see moving forward because one of the names I just gave you, Jeremiah Alexander, committed to Clemson before and flipped to the Alabama Crimson Tide. Could we see the same thing from Peter Woods? Well, it's tough to say that it won't happen because of the priority that Alabama has placed on him, and many people thought he was an Alabama lock, being in such close proximity to the Crimson Tide and having so many of his friends play for the Crimson Tide that came from Thompson. We already know Alabama is going to be trying to flip him, but I think we can also guarantee that Clemson's going to be doing everything in their power to make sure he stays in this class. Dabo Swinney did a great job in getting Peter Woods. Nick Saban did a great job in getting Peter Woods out the state of Alabama, and it's going to be really interesting to see what comes next because this is a big miss for the Crimson Tide. Luckily, they still have options on the board, but this is a guy they really, really wanted to get, and I'd be real shocked if they didn't continue trying to recruit him. Hop down to the comments, let me know what you're thinking about this, and I can't wait to hear from you. That's it. See ya.